Hello, Land Talker TV followers. This is Jim Rothermich, Iowa Appraisal, with another episode of Land Talker TV. And today I've got a really, probably the most popular banker in Iowa, Alan Rosendahl of Iowa State Bank. And I call him the banker from Kesley. And so we're going to interview Al today. But first, I want to talk about Land Hero. Land Hero is sponsoring this program, Land Talker TV, and I just brought the screen up for Land Hero. Land Hero is a way to access my sale database, and it's something I work with Stephen Broxius. He has designed this software. It's very user friendly. If you need arm's length transactions in Iowa and all the counties in Iowa, you can subscribe to Land Hero and you can analyze a lot of data quickly. If you're a realtor, if you're an appraiser, if you're a banker, if you're an attorney, or a land buyer, if you need high quality sale data, this is your resource, and Land Hero can work with you. And if you need the whole state of Iowa, we got it. If you just need a crop district, we've got it. If you just need one county, we've got that. So here's the website, and take advantage of that. Did that show up, Al? Maybe that didn't
I
show
don't
up.
see it.
Okay, here, let me get it up here. Maybe I didn't get it up.
You got to remember, I told you I wasn't technically savvy on most of this stuff.
Okay, can you see it now, Al?
Yes.
Okay, so here's the screenshot of Land Hero. Here's our website. Um, so Land Hero sponsors Land Talker TV, and so if you want high quality sale data that's current, this is your resource. And here's the first page on Land Hero website. So that's enough of that. Al, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, Jim. Yourself?
Oh, well, I'm doing great, and I want to thank you for being on Land Talker TV. We've been talking about this for a while, and know that you have a lot of knowledge of farming and banking, and excited to have you on here.
Well, let's back that up and say I may have a lot of opinions. We'll discuss the knowledge part later.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people would like to hear your opinion on things, and so Al, tell us about yourself. Just kind of introduce yourself to our subscribers on Land Talker TV.
Okay, my name's Alan Rosendahl. I am. I've been in the bank here at Iowa State Bank in the Kesley office for just close to 36 years.
Wow.
Grew up in Decorah, Iowa, farming, dairy, raised hogs, had beef cattle. When I got out of college, I went to Luther. When I got out of college, I went back to the farm and milked cows,
How many
raised a
cows?
few cattle on the side, did that kind of stuff. And that was farm crisis, 1979. Walked right into that.
So you was getting out of college about that time, Al?
Yeah. Um, Went to Arizona, then to New Mexico, came back to Iowa, bought another farm, and then hooked up with Fred Mayfield in Iowa State Bank here, and I've been here ever since.
And
And
Fred,
I still farm, by the way. But Fred owned the bank, and it ended up being one of the few banks that I could ever track down that was solely owned by one individual. And it was a unique experience working for Fred.
yeah, I know you have had a long time relationship. I think Fred has passed, but he's the one that started the bank. Is that right, Al?
His family was one were the founders or part of the founding group from the bank. Yes,
And where did it start out? Where was the first office at, Al?
the original office of the Iowa State Bank of Clarksville, which is the legal name, was about a block down the street in the lumber yard in Kesley, Iowa. And then during the Depression, that group of people bought the bank in Clarksville that I believe closed, and they opened it up, but they had to get a state charter. Before that, they were not state chartered. So we got a state, or they got a state charter and moved their main office to Clarksville at that time. About 81, 82, they built a new bank building here in Kesley. And the old one is immediately west of me across the street. Um, so there's a lot of history around here. And I don't know if you remember this, but west of Kesley, we're not too far from the Franklin County line.
Right.
And if you get a little west of here, back when I was a young guy, the Farm Progress Show was actually held on the eastern side of Franklin County there one year.
Oh, is that right?
And I remember some of the advertisement, et cetera, that went along with that. So we're on pretty good ground, highly variable here, but pretty good ground.
Yeah, yeah. And the Mayfield family, they farm around there too, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Fred was at the time of his death, I think he was farming 1,700 acres or something like that, 16.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Uh, we, him and I had a cow herd together that was a lot of black Angus cattle that ran in northern Missouri and up here in the wintertime. Yeah, it was a unique deal, yes.
Yeah. And his family's still carrying on the farming operation since his passing and the banking. How is that
His
going?
brother's stepsons are doing the farming out here right now, yes. The
Okay.
farms are still here, they're intact. They did sell a couple of them off, but the core group of legacy farms, I will call that, long term family ownership farms,
Uh-huh.
are still intact out here, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And so um now you guys do all kinds of loans. You do commercial loans, ag loans. Do you specialize in ag loans or can you speak to that, Al?
Bank loan portfolio is probably 85% ag, uh, a little bit of consumer. The residential portfolio has grown some, uh, and some commercial. The commercial stuff is primarily accommodation, customers, children, people that grew up here, people that we have other associations with. We do some commercial loans for them. But when you have the opportunity to know three generations of the family, you don't get quite so in depth on things maybe as some banks would do.
Right. Right.
But right now, I'm actually banking the fourth generation of farmers that I have dealt with in the almost 36 years I've been here. How's that?
That's pretty good. That's some good talking points right there. Not many people get to have that many generations to deal with for sure.
Yeah.
So, so you do a lot, as far as your coverage area, what is your coverage area? Iowa State Bank's coverage area.
Primarily, we are northeast Iowa, north central Iowa, but we have done business in Nebraska, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when I started in the bank, it was probably a little more local than that. And we have loans in other states too, by the way, but primarily Iowa and maybe some collateral elsewhere, but people reside here. Um,
Al, you turned your screen off.
I didn't touch it.
You had to do some.
No, I didn't touch it.
Can you see me?
I can see you perfectly.
I can't see you. There you
There
go.
we go. I don't know
There
what
you go.
happened, but when I started in the bank, we were doing business primarily in Butler, Grundy, Hardin, Franklin, and I like dealing with FSA. We picked up a large FSA guaranteed loan portfolio, and I believe at one time this little office here in a non-incorporated town in north central Iowa was the eighth largest guaranteed lender in the United States. And that was part of the reason we went wherever, because there were banks at that time that really didn't want to mess with the FSA guarantees.
Uh-huh.
And we took them on and grew them, and
Yeah.
it was an enjoyable experience. I can tell stories about Fred and I going down the road, but we're not going to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I put 60,000 miles a year on in vehicles, maybe more. At the time we were doing that, I was doing more. Fred was running 80,000 miles a year, and we had a tremendous support staff in the offices, and we grew a loan portfolio that obviously covered all the way to Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota. Yeah.
Now, Al, for our listeners that don't know what a FSA guaranteed loan is, could you tell us what that is?
That's a loan that is primarily targeted at weaker credits or maybe larger credits than what a bank could handle. And the government will guarantee 80 to 90% of the loan. So the bank's risk on that drops tremendously. We used it to move loans into the secondary market, give some better rates than we otherwise would have been able to, and deal with some larger loans than we would have been able to because of our restricted lending limit. When I came here, the bank was 23.5 million in total assets. I think last night we were 373 million, and
Wow.
we didn't buy anybody. We just grew it. How's that?
I that's the way to do it. It's all organic, it sounds like.
It's all organic.
And just to clarify, FSA stands for Farm Service Agency.
Farm Service
Yep, yep,
Agency, correct.
yep, yep. So, Al, as far as a typical farmer in your area, can you kind of talk about some of the sizes and some of the typical operation? I know there's all different sorts, but
Well, typical, I don't know if there's anything that is typical anymore, Jim. Everything's getting bigger. Um, we deal with people that are 80 years old, still actively farming and farming a couple hundred acres to, guys that are up around 5,000 acres, some of them even bigger than that. When they get much bigger than that, I get restricted by lending limit to what I can deal with.
uh-huh.
But yeah, they're all over. We got guys that farm good ground, and I mean, they're averaging 260, 270. Corn yields very consistently, and guys that farm some ground that they aren't able to get those kind of yields on, at least on a consistent basis. It's typical for Butler County, Butler, Grundy, Franklin, Hardin. It's a sweet spot of corn and bean production in the entire world. How's that?
Yeah, it is. It is. There's some good ground there for sure.
I I think one time I saw some commentary about the sweet spot for corn and bean production went across the northern two-thirds of Iowa, took a hard right and went right up the Red River Valley to Winnipeg, and then across into southern Minnesota, corner of Wisconsin, northern two-thirds Illinois, and maybe into a bit of Indiana. And I had one guy tell me, all you need to know about corn and beans is that area. The rest of it doesn't matter. They produce the most of it. Now, obviously, new genetics and different farming practices, better tile in the Dakotas, some irrigation in Nebraska, et cetera, have expanded that window or that area considerably.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right. Right. Well, they say that the center of the corn belt keeps moving west because of what you just said right there.
Yeah.
It used to be over in, like, maybe 20 years ago, it used to be over in western Illinois, but now I think it's as far west as Johnson County, Iowa City. Um, so definitely weather patterns and better corn genetics sure has pushed that area you're talking about west.
You might find a little hilarity or comedy on this. When I came to the bank, we ran cash flows on 150 bushel corn and 40 bushel beans because that was kind of normal.
Uh huh.
Today, you got to be producing a lot more than that if you're going to stay in this business very long. How's that?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
You know, 230, 240 is pretty common. There's a lot of 210 to 230 on multi-year farm averages
Uh huh.
as far as corn yields. And when I talk about this, I grew up in Decorah. I don't put beans in my hills up there, so I don't talk beans very much.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you have to excuse me on that.
You don't raise any beans on your farm up there, do you, Al?
I think the last year I had beans was 2003, and I got hailed out, and I've never raised them since. How's that?
You're just a corn guy for sure.
Continuous corn.
Yeah. So, well, as far as uh, if a person wanted to come in your bank and wanted a loan, wasn't doing an FSA guaranteed loan, what would be the requirements? Would you have to have 20% down, 50% down? What can you kind of talk about what you expect, what's your expectations for somebody to come in?
Well, you're talking two different things today. One is collateral, and a collateral by our requirements, I have to have a minimum of 20% down. Um, from a cash flow standpoint, when you're talking land, today you probably need to have two-thirds down or have a lot of ground paid for that can subsidize that partial that you're buying. But I just came through year ends and there's still a lot of strong working capital positions out here that can buy whatever they want to buy. Uh, that may be a little tongue in cheek. If they want to buy 1,000 acres, they're probably restricted, but they're very capable of buying the neighboring 80 or 160 and not getting stretched by any sense of the word.
Right, right. Well, that kind of explains why the land market's doing so good, Al. As I watch those auction results come in the last 3 months of last year, I mean, there were several records set around the state. It wasn't just in northwest Iowa. There was other areas that were
You and I discussed that a little a couple weeks ago, and we had three sales right in this area that were very strong to my expectations. How's that? One of them was a little weaker than I thought, but the others were very strong. And since then, we've had another sale that I thought was a little above where I would have pegged it a month ago. And I guess the real thing is going to be coming here in a week or so. There's 160 and 93 and a half CSR just into Franklin County that I'm getting phone calls from non-bank customers. How's that?
that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
I think there's a couple people that have called me from out of state on that farm. So somebody's doing some advertising on it because
Right,
I just
right,
as soon have that farm in my customers' portfolio, but it's going to bring what it's going to bring.
right, right, right. Well, that's you know, it's kind of been hard to explain why we've seen such a increase. Just maybe just a slight increase in land prices at the end of the year, and it seems to be carrying on into this year. There was a farm down in Johnson County, Iowa, that did not have any um, location benefit to Iowa City, and the auctioneer sold it at $20,000 an acre, and he was just totally surprised it brought that much. And the kicker was an Amish guy bought it.
Um, yeah, I've seen a little bit of that where they're relocating maybe from farther east to Pennsylvania, Indiana, close to the cities, and they're coming out here with having sold some ground in those areas and buying much larger parcels for a lot less money here. Yes.
Right, that's what I've heard. They like the price of our ground out here, and they also like, kind of like those rolling areas. Kind of reminds them wherever they come from. I think we get some from Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and Ohio, and they're selling those farms for development prices and coming out here and buying it for ag land prices. So
I just talked to somebody 2 nights ago, and I'm trying to remember where that was, but he had, I think, a couple former Amish had bought some ground and paid pretty well for it compared to what he thought. Let's put it to you that way. But by and large, the activity is farmers buying more ground, farmers expanding, parents, grandparents helping, grandsons, in some cases, granddaughters,
mhm.
daughters get involved. Um, Seeing more second generation of, grandpa farmed, kids moved away, and now the grandparent or grandchildren are inheriting and maybe buying out some of their relatives in the process. We're seeing some of that. It's we're going to continue to see consolidation of who's farming. I think that's pretty evident. But the land ownership is, I still think, going to be primarily held by farmers, at least for my lifetime.
Right, right. Yep, yep. Um, do you get a lot of do you do any of those new farmer loans for those young
We
guys?
used to do a lot of the beginning farmer loans,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I'm talking about Iowa Agricultural Development Authority there. And I did one a year ago, but it's been a while. I actually had a young loan officer starting in the bank that's no longer with us, but he did most of the work on it. So we just haven't. It's a great learning experience for lending staff, and it's good for the new farmer. The low interest rates and the resulting tax benefits of that program have narrowed up where that hasn't been able to save them as much money as it did back when I started here. And there was you either got the opportunity to pay 12.4 or 12.9 interest rate, depending on the bank's internal risk rating. You know, half that number is more common today. How's that?
Yeah. Now, when you was, they're in the 80s, what interest rate was you dealing with back then, Al?
So I didn't start in the bank till 1990.
Okay.
Before that, I was working at a finance company in Arizona, and there was a lot of stuff in the upper 30s, or not in the low 30s, upper 20s and low 30s at that time. Um,
Wow.
but I do remember my neighbors up in Decorah were talking about borrowing money at, 18, 19, 16%. The first farm I bought was 84. I paid 10% interest.
And you thought that was pretty good.
I thought that was really good. I had to negotiate to break them down to that. It's a way different deal today.
Yeah. So what would be a typical interest rate today for somebody coming borrowing money if they've met your criteria,
If you
Al?
meet all the criteria and you get to the top level and you got plenty of net worth and you're historically extremely profitable, probably a 5-year fix somewhere in the upper fives.
Okay. Okay. Yeah,
I
that's
am not, I just, this bank is not set up to do long-term fixed rate funding unless I use the FSA guarantee program. And that I can't get that low with that program today. How's that?
gotcha. Gotcha. Now, what do you think interest rates are going to do going forward, Al? That's the question. Everybody wants to know, and I know you know. What are
I
they going
don't know
to
anything.
do?
Um, I don't know anything about that. I can give you some opinions, but at the end of the day, the answer to that is I don't know. There's some things I see going on both locally and nationally in the economy that tell me that rates should increase.
Uh-huh.
There's some things I see going on locally and nationally that tell me rates should decrease. Right now, we've had a little bit of pressure on deposit rates, so those are dropping. Um, but the longer term fixed rate type stuff has been going up again a little bit.
Right.
House loans are off what is probably a 5 or 6 year high. They're not as high as what they were, but they've crept up again a little bit. Okay,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so where things are going, don't know. I will tell you what I tell customers. Some combination of variable, uh, adjustable, and fixed is probably the best. If you're worried about interest rates, that's probably the best thing you can do.
Uh-huh.
But I can also tell you that most of our ag lending is strictly operating type loans, crop inputs, livestock, etc. And those guys tend to want to be at least fixed for the year. They don't want to be on a pure floating rate.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So give
Okay.
them the option.
Right, 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 right. So as far as what do you think, how is profitability going to look this year? Because one thing I get, I've had several reporters call me and want to talk about how we're back into the 1980s farm crisis. And with the land prices that what I'm getting, we're nowhere even close to that. So can you comment on that?
I purely on break evens. Yeah, I'll comment on it. Purely on break evens from crop sales, etc. I don't think it's going to be a particularly good year. Matter of fact, I would tell you that most people will probably be slightly negative to slightly positive, is where the mean is going to be. But there's this wild card called government payments.
Right.
And if you look at the projections on that, there's going to be the SRDP one that they're coming back and going to give some more money, the government, to some of these farmers based on losses in 23 and 24. So they're trying to get that money used up that they allocated. President Trump pushed out the bridge payments. That's going to be a significant plus in this area. And it looks like ARC PLC could, depending on your corn base and your payment yields, could get you 100 to 120 bucks a base acre on your corn today. So there's a possibility some of these guys are going to pick up 250 bucks an acre in government payments this year. When you throw that on yields and marketing, there's a lot of guys that are going to do just fine. Okay.
For sure. For sure. Does that
And
mean
that doesn't include what I understand is in the continuing resolution that the House and Senate were arguing over, that they wanted to give another 15 to 17 billion out. And that would be greatly appreciated because it makes my life easier in the bank. But
right?
yeah, I mean, like I said before, we're going to see consolidation. the people that are making money are making really good money. Probably one of my guidelines on risk rating is making a 10% return on your net worth over and above your cost of living. And we still have people that are doing that. And that's, $8, $10 million net worth. If you make 10% over your cost of living, you're doing pretty well.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah.
But we still have, and I probably am more guilty than most, an addiction to deferring tax liability. And
Uh-huh.
we have to watch out for that line a little bit too.
And you're talking about buying new equipment to
Yeah, or
farm
used,
or use.
used, used, new, whatever. The good spot in the market from what I read right now is that 2 to 5 year old bigger machinery. You've got most of the technology, and yet somebody's taking the hit on the new paint depreciation.
Right. Right. Well, I watch those machinery auctions as well. I don't report on them, but I'm surprised how strong those prices are. Um, one thing that I will say that's similar between now and the 1980s is the amount of people exiting the business. Um, like you're saying, there's a lot of consolidation right now.
Um, this is based on size. Our margins per acre are probably not very far off from where they were in the early 90s, but purely the cost of living, the cost of machinery, et cetera, that inflation has made it to the point where you can farm, but you have to have two professional jobs to subsidize the farm, take advantage of the tax deferment or the tax refunds, and be able to pop that money back into the farming operation to make it viable if you're trying to start or you're relatively small. You know, once you get above that, probably 1,800, 2,000 acres, if you're pure row crop and you're not terribly leveraged, now you can go forward. But you talk about that. I'm seeing rents from $200 an acre to 500, and
Yeah.
that's in a relatively small area here.
Yeah.
Um, there's a lot of pretty strong rents, and there's a lot of stuff that's still inter-family and below market. How's that?
Yeah. Oh, I hear you. And what few cash rent auctions I get, there's not very many of them. But surprised how strong those can be at times.
I took a call yesterday afternoon about rent. Took another one this morning, to be honest with you. Got no, this morning the customer asked me, he said, I got a chance to rent a farm for $350 an acre. He goes, what do you think? Well, I said, I don't think it cash flows, at least not with any margin of error. And but I said, I think you got to figure out how to tie it up, because sooner or later we're going to turn these margins around, and then you're sitting there controlling it. But I am finding no indication that rents have dropped in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
They dropped 2 years ago after we had the poor yields around. They dropped some then, and those have not gone back up that I have been able to track. But if you want to ask me a ballpark rent in this area, I'll tell you 300, 275 to 350 is a pretty good range in the middle.
Uh huh. Uh huh.
But that would be pretty decent ground, probably, and well tiled. And
What kind of corn yields? 200 to 230, or what are you talking?
230, probably 220, 230.
Okay. Okay.
We're a little over a bushel, $1 a bushel, buck and a quarter, buck and a half, whatever,
Right.
on theoretical yield.
Right.
But there's also some stuff out here in that $2 range too, and that gets a little dicey.
Yeah. I know.
And
Uh,
then there's other things that go on too. So I tell people I'm in the middle of ethanol central and hog central.
right. You are.
There is a large number of hog buildings. There's a large number of ethanol plants within close proximity to me. Um, where I sit in this town, 15 years ago, I did some math between the ethanol plants, the feed mills for both chickens and hogs, and we were grinding about 18 sections a day of no roads, no trees, no fence lines, no houses, no buildings of 185 bushel corn.
Uh-huh.
Um, which why 185? At that time, that was kind of where the state of Iowa was averaging. And we were grinding that 7 days a week.
Uh-huh.
So the back edge of that is our basis probably runs a little bit narrower here, deviation from board price to cash. And we have a large amount of farms that have been covered with hog manure.
Uh-huh.
And we're seeing the influx of chicken manure from the edges to be used as fertilizer. And that ties in with some other things that I have seen, but yields are improving.
Uh-huh.
And that's probably today, the hog manure probably costs you the same to put on as commercial fertilizer, but there is a yield pop to it, especially when you have multiple years of continuous hog manure or continuous livestock manure.
Uh-huh.
And that probably is what you see in extreme northwest Iowa is that influx, and in eastern Iowa along the edge of the just up from the Mississippi River, where you see some pretty strong sales in some ground that
Yeah.
maybe is a little rolling and
Yeah.
maybe not quite the 90 plus CSR that you see in northwest Iowa.
Well, that's one thing that surprises me is those guys in those hills in eastern Iowa have those, they might not set records on dollars per acre, but dollars per CSR 2 point. They're
Oh,
right up there.
that
They're
is
way up there.
they're way up there. Um, the argument over there, and probably in northwest Iowa, has got more to do with to comply with our manure management plans. As the livestock operations get bigger, we have to add more acres to utilize that fertilizer value out over. And those guys over there in eastern Iowa, I won't tell you they do it every year, but there's a lot of big yields over there on those dairy and hog and
Yep.
cattle farms
Yep.
in
Yep.
that area along the eastern edge of Iowa.
Yep. That those cattle guys, they just load that soil up with that cattle manure and
Oh, 2 years ago, I was talking to Rain and Hail, and they were seeing yields come in from Winneshiek and Alameda County on silage appraisals that were well above what they were expecting. There was a lot of 300 bushel plus yield estimates off the silage appraisals.
hmm
And there was even a few 300 bushel an acre farms up there too that were combined.
uh-huh.
But you didn't have to go very far away, and you got into stuff that didn't have as much livestock manure on, or maybe had some sand or some tar spot or something else, and the yields dropped pretty fast.
Now I know you farm up there in northeast Iowa. Now your yields were down this year some, weren't they, Al? Or
My yields are down from last year from 24 to 25. We're down about, I don't want to say this. I'm down about 35, 40 bushel an acre, 24 to 25. 24 was absolutely spectacular. I have a grain cart that we've calibrated, moisture sensors, I track everything back to delivery receipts and settlement statements as we sell. But 24 was a really big year for me. Last year, I haven't got it all delivered yet. The number that the appraiser came out and put on me was 243 and a half bushel an acre across all acres.
And you're and you're down from last year.
And I'm down considerably. The year the year before was something I probably will not see for a while again. How's that?
Well, so it was it the corn rust? Was it that why you was down, Al, or maybe you got dry? Is that it,
No, I wasn't dry.
or maybe I think
This
you had to replant or something, didn't you, Al?
I got we planted right before Easter and got some cold ground and wet soil, and I had to replant about 150 acres. And there was one particular number that was less than stellar that I had quite a few acres of replant on, and that hurt. Rust hurt, and that number the year before was very, very good. So I mean, just the luck of the draw on that. Last year, my first pass of fungicide was with a drone. Um, Typically, I use a very long-lasting efficacy on rust and tar spot prevention because I don't like to go in there any more than I have to. But the drone was streaky. You could see spots where the coverage was lacking. Um, the sec- I have a crop scout that's from Elgin. He's going through my fields, and 2.5 weeks after we sprayed with the drone, he was finding evidence of tar spots popping up again.
Mm-hmm.
So the second pass I made with a highboy, and that seemed to take care of it. I get better coverage with the highboy than I do with the drone. In the past, I've used the highboy first and then the drone as the second pass. The interesting thing was we put on a 20-acre block in the middle of one field with a third pass of fungicide. And I had somebody sit in the combine and watch the yield monitor and the moisture tester. And I had all kinds of aerial imagery. That 20-acre block was actually very, very green compared to the rest of the field. And my fields were pretty green compared to most everybody else's. Um, but the guy that ran the combine and the guy that was riding with him both said the same thing. When you hit that third pass, it was 2 points wetter and it was 10 to 15 bushels an acre more corn.
So,
So it in last year, for whatever reason, whether timing or whatever, that third pass probably would have paid for at least me to go make.
uh-huh. Right. 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 So as far as looking at the 2026 crop, talk about the input prices, Al. Have you got all your inputs bought, and
Oh
is
well,
it the
yeah,
same as
they're
is it
not. I haven't written the check for all of them yet, but I know what I'm putting on and I know what they're going to cost me. How's that? What?
is it the same as last year, or is it
Oh no,
higher?
it's we're making some adjustments. Um, Added a new farm that's a little soft in fertility compared to what I'm used to. So we're spending a little more money there. P and K are higher. They're higher than I'd like them to see. The sulfur's probably steady to slightly higher. Anhydrous is higher. Liquid, I think, is pretty close to what I actually paid, but I bought that a little later in the season last year. Chemistry is a little higher on a per acre basis. Everybody's getting a little more margin out of the farmer's pocket. How's that?
Yeah, well, that's what about seed? Is that higher or about the same
Oh
as
yeah,
last?
that's higher. That we don't have to worry about that one. That it's been a while since that's gone down.
Well,
Now,
that's, as you know, you hear so much negative press about the farm economy right now, and hearing about China not buying enough corn or beans. The fact of the matter is, there's a lot of demand for corn. It's very high. To me, the problem is the input costs have just
it
skyrocketed.
goes, Jim. That goes back to what we talked about of living and machinery cost, et cetera. It's all inflation, and the inflation hits in good places. The value of the farmland, it hits in if you own it. Hits in bad places in the cost of doing business or buying groceries.
Yeah,
Um, you want to talk about that? When I started farming in 1979, I bought the best Pioneer seed I thought I could find for the farm at that time. I think I paid $33 a bag. The price before discounts on some of the stuff I bought this year was north of 500.
wow.
Now,
Woo.
they get pretty aggressive on the discounts, so it doesn't get to be that much. But I don't buy stuff that's not fully traded simply because that's where the seed corn companies put their best genetics. They put the traits into their best genetics.
Yep.
So, yeah, we can say that I can plant non GMO corn, but on average, you're going to experience some yield drag. Does it offset the cost of the seed? Some people will say yes, some no. But anywhere from 305 to 340 an acre for seed per bag on that. My seed cost per acre is probably a thing that should talk about. I plant, we drop at 38,400, and I'm spending about $157 an acre on seed.
Uh-huh. Hmm.
That's the number that starts to bite. Okay,
Right.
and
Right.
I get told that I could cut back my population, and I have no problem trying that on a few acres every year. The problem comes in that my yields fall off
Right.
when I
Right.
get into those lower populations that most people plant. Now, I'm not going to tell everybody to plant 38.4 because I tend to use that farm and more as a test plot to try things out. And the fertility is pretty high across everything.
Yeah.
And I can stand the population where if you don't have that fertility, not willing to spend the money on two passes of fungicide, side dressing nitrogen, following all the maintenance details out to the best of your ability, um, probably not going to get the reward for it either. Okay.
Yeah. So in your customer base, what are they planting around 35,000 seeds per acre?
34 is probably more normal. 33 to 36 is about what they tell me they're planning,
Yeah.
that
Now,
range.
as far as the corn that's and grain that's left on the farm from last year, is most of it still out on the farm from 2025 harvest, or has it been some of it's been sold, half of it's been sold, or how is that?
Well, I put it to you this way. I have to go back and do my inventories with my farmers. I can tell you personally, I've sold about 25%. I have delivered about 25% of my last year's corn crop.
Uh-huh.
I've got another 25 to 35% that is priced. but delivery is going to be in June rather than today.
Uh-huh.
So I have roughly half of that crop that I can deliver tomorrow or deliver whenever. I am also 2/3 priced on the 26 crop on my federal crop guarantee,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
and use a variety of marketing options. I'll put it to you that way. But we're able to go out here today and lock in some pretty attractive prices on the grain side if you're willing to take a little bit of risk. I use some accumulators, is what they're called, that kind of stuff, rather than go strictly cash priced.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So I'm open to doubling up my sales, which is why I don't want to get sold over my federal crop guarantees.
Yeah.
I want to be less than half of my guaranteed bushels sold at any time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but for taking that risk, I can get 485 to $5 right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just what do
That's
you
good.
want to do? Take the risk. It's farming's a risk. I'm fortunate enough that I have a pretty strong non-farm income from several sources, but I can take some risk that a lot of people can't. Let's put it to you that way as
Yeah.
well. How's that?
Yeah. Yeah. Al, let's talk about the cattle business. I know you know a lot about cattle. So what do you think
Oh,
about prices and just uh just talk about comment on
cattle
cattle
prices are
prices.
very cattle prices are great, and they're going to stay great. Um, there is some commentary that we're just starting to see the beginning edge of heifer retention. My personal few cows that I have remaining, I'm not selling heifers and haven't for 3 years. But I had a relatively old cow herd that I am trying to roll the old cows out of and get into a younger cow herd. How's that?
Okay. So you're just keeping
And
heifers back just to replace the old cows. Is that's all you're doing? You're not expanding
oh,
them.
and maybe grow 5, 6 head a year if I can. And we'll just let it do what it we'll let it dictate itself. How's that?
Okay.
Um, but I have looked at buying open heifers to breed this spring. They're pricey, more than I want to stick in this game. I've looked at buying old cows. No, that's a reasonable risk given the pound market. But if we have a strike in a packing plant, like is being talked about last week, the market tends to change pretty rapidly too.
Yeah.
Um, I was online looking at buying bulls this weekend, and I've been looking at sale averages of Angus bulls, and it's kind of hard to buy a decent bull under about 10 grand today.
Uh-huh.
So there's that. Now, the other side of the cattle business is the one that I don't like to talk about, but I'm going to. Our cows have gotten heavier, but they haven't gotten bigger, they've gotten fatter.
Uh-huh.
So we've downsized the frame score on these cows and actually just made them fatter. But when it comes to feeding out their progeny, those cattle don't gain. You got to have some length of spine. You got to have some frame. I mean, I'm 6'3". I can put weight on faster than you and way easier, because you're not as big as I am. And right now, if you look at these feeder cattle that are going through the markets
Thank you.
today
Perfect. Thanks,
at
Jim.
record prices, and that's a good thing for the cow calf industry, you're probably looking, even with corn at its current levels, of break evens that are into the 1,600 pounds. So if you got a 1,650 pound break even, because I'll use that rather than the futures price that most of them want to use. Uh, and your fat cattle finish at 1,450 pounds, that's 200 pounds less. I will tell you, it'll take you about the same time with those smaller frame cattle. What's in the fat market today? I had a customer get quoted 240. So what's 200 times 240? 480 bucks. So you might save 80 bucks in feed costs, but you just gave away $400 of equity because guess what? Your break even was 1650 and you got them to a pay weight of 1450. That will put a lid on this cattle market when these feeders get tired of losing enough money. The other thing I don't like is to accommodate those smaller frame cows. We've got people that are implanting calves before weaning, and then they get to the feed lots or the backgrounding lots, and before they get finished, we're getting two more rounds of implants in a lot of these cattle. So we're seeing some artificial growth that really is not there. The feedlot has to do that to hold their break evens down. And if you look, I think the prime percentage has gone up. Why? You got cattle that are supposed to weigh 14 and a half. You got to get them to 16 to a break even. You got to put an extra 150 pounds of bark on them or grease. And when you put more corn in them, you get more seam fat, et cetera, which qualifies as intermuscular fat as far as the packer is concerned. It isn't the best tasting fat out there. I like the true white flecks in the meat, but it gets the feeders closer to where they need to be. Let's put it to you that way. So
Yeah.
I don't see anything going on in the cattle market, but steady to full steam ahead for the next 24 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know that you can stop it. They can talk about importing beef from Argentina, Brazil, Mexico, Paraguay, Uruguay. I don't think you can. I don't think we're going to import enough of that to make a difference. And at some point, if we don't keep the market suppressed for people that don't make 100,000 a year, it's going to be hard to hold that beef market constant. And then demand dries up, and it'll either be demand or increased supply that kill that market. In my mind,
Yeah.
it's not going to be South American beef.
Right, right. That I heard, that beef from wherever, Argentina, wherever that was from, that was just such a small sliver of beef that it doesn't affect the market. So,
Well, the other part about that, Jim, is what we're bringing in is primarily pretty lean.
yeah, isn't
And
that
when
just
you are
ground beef?
feeding these cattle to excessive weights, excessive yield grades, we got a lot of trim we got to do something with. So that bark that's coming off these excessively fat cattle gets mixed with the lean that's coming in. Um, and we got pretty good hamburger coming out of that. That's
Right,
just
right,
the I'm not going to get into some of that intricacies of grass fed and that kind of stuff. We got a demand for hamburger in this country that's very large. And the people that typically buy most of that don't have high income.
right, right.
And we've got to make sure that we keep them eating beef, or the next thing you know, we are not going to have a demand base.
Right, right. And that's what I worry about is the price is just going to get so high it's going to start curbing demand. So, but we're not there yet. I listened to a presentation by Daryl Peel from Oklahoma State University. He was talking about those weights of them cattle. He was saying we don't need to go any higher. It's high enough on those weights.
The,
Um,
the interesting thing is now I understand the cost for the cow calf guy gets to be a little more to maintain those bigger cows. But if you have bigger cows and you've got calves with more stretch, more frame, you can get them to a break even at a lighter weight because you don't have to put so many days of age on them. That works really well. And oh, by the way, they're younger, they're more tender, they are more pleasing to the palate.
Uh-huh.
And if you can figure out how to get that kind to grade, which there's ways of doing that without drugs and implants, they become pretty profitable in that 14 and a half to 1,500 pound range.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yep. So, Al, we better be finishing this up. Is there anything, what, just right now, what is your biggest concern out there that kind of maybe keeps you up at night? Is there anything like that, or going to a bull sale? Does that keep you up at night, or?
No, bull sales, yeah, I'll deal with that. For my customer base, and so you got to remember, I go back and I'll talk about Fred a second here. Fred made a comment to me when he hired me. Your job is to know what the customer is going to do before they do it. And most of the time, your job is going to be to drag them kicking and screaming into profitability. They may not like what you think or what you understand, but I'm hiring you. I trust your judgment. Make sure they're profitable. And I can go back to when hog building started to become a big deal in this area. And I took a pretty forward looking stand, probably for a banker at the time. And I caught some grief from some customers for supporting the hog buildings. Now, for me, I have to deal with numbers. The emotion, if I get to that, I'm worthless. But when I deal with numbers, the increased fertilizer, the increased yields, the narrower basis because you don't have to haul the corn as far. And then, oh, by the way, the farmers aren't sitting in the elevator for 5 hours a day talking about how tough it is out here. Some of them got to add on to their farm. Some of them went to work in the hog buildings. And Fred chastised me a little bit for the supporting the hog buildings as much. And I said, that's fine. You and I are going to take a drive. And on Saturday, after the bank closed, because we were open till noon those days, we took a drive and we went by one customer's yard and he goes, he's got a different combine. He's got a newer tractor. He's got a new pickup. He said, where's this money coming from? I said, just a second. And it was just luck. I said, we're going to go over that knoll and I will show you. And there was one set of hog buildings on one side of the road and one set on the other. I said, that is what's driving this. It's called economic activity. We are increasing the demand base. Big hog and ethanol have probably about run their increasing demand base
Right.
for
Right.
the Iowa farmer or the Midwestern farmer. And we're going to have to find a different use for ethanol or corn, or I don't know that there's enough cattle in this country. If we shipped them all to Iowa, we're going to use up all the corn that we raise here
Right.
because guess what? We're putting rail in now that's taking corn to other parts of this country. And as we pointed out earlier, other parts of the country are growing more corn than they
Right. Right.
have traditionally grown.
Right.
So we need to find a new demand for what we produce.
Right.
And
Right.
I've been to Brazil. We can't keep up with them. They're increasing their corn yields, they're increasing their acres, they're double cropping, triple cropping. They're increasing bean yields, increasing bean acres. You know, they're the largest producers of several commodities, and this is still a commodity business.
Right. Right.
Um, their land cost where I was at down there is roughly the same as ours was at the time I was down there. But when you can grow 2 or 3 crops a year,
that matters.
That matters. That's a big deal. When you can use that machinery to grow 2 or 3 crops a year, that matters because
Yeah,
now
yeah,
it's your fixed cost to revenue stream
right.
that get to be a lot less. The last data I saw coming out of central Brazil, they can raise corn for a buck and a half a bushel, cheaper than we can, to the ethanol plants in Brazil. In that same area, they can raise beans for about $3 a bushel cheaper than we can. And oh, by the way, as they increase their productivity on a per acre basis, per crop, that drives that break even down even farther.
Right.
At some point, there will be rail that will get them to the ports, and then we are going to have a problem internationally that we're not prepared for. So we have to build some kind of demand base in this country that will utilize what we produce, or the 80s could look pretty nice. How's
Yep.
that?
Yep. No, I hear you. I hear you. That's something we got to continue to do is to
That
get.
is what keeps me up at night.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. Agreed. Agreed. Well, Al, thank you for being on Land Talker TV. Now, I know, you're probably one of the most famous bankers in Iowa.
That is strictly
The
because of you and your
the the famous banker
posts
from
on Twitter and Facebook. How's that?
I will admit every now and then if there's a big price in Al's area, I'll put call the banker from Kesley, and it gets quite the reaction on social media. So,
I am thinking that you are going to be saying that again here within the next couple of weeks based on that piece of ground that
right, right. Could be
it looks like
$20,000
it's
a year.
in that piece of ground looks like it's what they call heirloom quality. You buy it, you pay for it, you never put a mortgage on it, and you figure out how to give it to your great great grandchildren. It's an
Right.
heirloom.
Right, right, right. Well, the cost of it 50 years from now is going to look cheap. So whatever they pay for it,
Oh,
you
I
know,
don't I like I said, we've talked about, alluded to. I don't see land values. They might drop a little bit, they might fluctuate, but I don't see that trend is going to do anything but either follow very closely with the Dow or outpace the Dow. Depending on where you want to go in history, Iowa farmland either exceeds the Dow or it follows it very
yeah,
closely.
yeah. Now, one thing I want to cover in that since you brought it up, I thought, based on my auction data, lands from the absolute peak in May of 2022 to December 31st, 2025, the market's only fell out a little over 10%. I think that's amazing. That is
Well,
amazing
yeah,
at
when you
solid
consider
price.
that we dropped the price of corn by what, 50,
Yeah,
45,
45%.
50%?
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, depending on whether you want to look at harvest lows or today's board price. It isn't 4 years ago I sold cash corn for 713. Now I had to do a little marketing and roll some corn or contracts around, but I had the contracts in place and we did that. And today, yeah, I can get if I want to use those accumulators, I can get $5 less the basis to get at the cash. So probably looking at 475, 480 cash corn on a typical base. And that's a big drop from 713 to 480.
oh, it's huge. It's huge. So that surprises me. It seems like land prices have kind of flatlined and maybe even started to go up. My auction data is indicating they're starting to just
Well, our
increase a little
conversation
bit.
of 2, 3 weeks ago, I called you when I was driving down the road and I said, are my eyes right? But it looks like this market's actually gotten a little higher in the last month.
Yeah,
And I think your comment was probably in the last 3 months, more.
yeah, yeah,
You've got better data than I do.
yeah,
I,
yeah.
I like to look at your sales reports every month from around the state. As we talked about in my backyard where I farm, that price per CSR point gets a little price per CSR point per tillable acre gets a little stupid.
Yeah, it
But when
does.
I've got people up there that'll come in and pay 10, 11,000 an acre for timber bluffs along the upper Iowa, along some of those creeks that the only thing it's good for is to go turkey and deer hunting and
Yeah.
maybe some coyotes, etc. And I know of a specific farm that brought a little over 10,000 an acre, and it was less than 50% tillable, and the rest of
Yeah.
it was straight up and down.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's beautiful house lots. You can do whatever you want to on it. But that's what's cooking in that area is we've got some strong influence from La Crosse, Rochester. Um, the hospital in town is affiliated with both of those hospitals. And so we have some doctors in residency. They'll come and buy something like that. That I tell people you need a four-wheel drive in the middle of summer after a drought to get up the driveway to their house, but they seem to get there. And they like long driveways typically as well.
Yeah.
And but they want to be able to see wildlife and they want a view and they're very willing to pay for it. And it's not just doctors, it's everybody.
Yeah, well, I just if somebody that analyzes sales all over the state, some of that recreational land sells higher. I think it's the highest in the state of Iowa up there in your country.
Oh, in that area, I will tell you the pure recreational ground. It wouldn't surprise me if you wanted to tell me that that brought more than some of the better tillable acres up there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm not going to go into the CSRs and that up there because there's CSRs deviate by soil quality and slope, uh,
Uh-huh.
which you're aware of. But yeah, I can produce with Grundy County and Butler and Hardin up there, even
Yeah.
in my case. How's that?
I know you
We'll,
can.
we'll if you push that kind of ground flat and you watch where you're at, there's a lot of mid 90 CSR farms up in that area if it was all A and B slope.
Right. Right.
But because there's a lot of C, D, and E, and occasionally something that's maybe a little steeper than that, a lot of 60s show up pretty quick too.
Yep. 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 Yep.
So,
So, Al, do you do you want to say how if somebody wants to talk to you, can you do you want to give your information out or would you rather not or what do you want to
oh,
do?
I can give everything out. I mean, I'm not afraid of looking at loans anywhere and everywhere.
Okay.
Somebody might not like the answer I give them, but I will look. Um, Al Rosendahl, Iowa State Bank. I'm in, it's 15811 Main Street, Kesley, Iowa. We have offices in Parkersburg and Clarksville. Phone number here is 319-347-6671. My cell phone, if you want to talk to me, you better text, but that number is 319-240-6770. I just happened to get a lot of spam calls, as Jim noted
Yep.
before we started this.
Yep.
And if I don't have your number and name in my phone, it goes directly into a spam folder and I don't even see it. I might hear it ring if the ringer's turned on, and that's the extent of it. It just goes and I don't pay attention. So if you want to call me on my cell phone, use the text and then call, and or I will call you back. Iowa A Rosendahl at iowastatebank.com. That's the email address. Uh, yeah, there's ways to get a hold of me. And probably, as you alluded to, Jim, you can call your banker because most of them around the state seem to at least know who I am. But after 35 and a half years of being here, I guess there's advantages to that too.
Well, if the way I look at it, if you don't know Al Rosendahl, you don't have to go very far to find somebody that does know him. So, but I can't imagine not anybody knowing who you are.
I had a federal crop adjuster from another company that I know, um, don't do business with. He called me one day on my cell phone and we were talking, and he goes, I was in southeast Iowa. I go, yeah. He said, I asked somebody if they'd ever heard of you, and they go, "Oh yeah, he's my banker."
Yep.
So, I mean,
Very
yeah,
good.
I have a few people that may know me.
Yep.
How's that?
Yep.
I'm highly opinionated. If you don't like that, you won't like me. Um, I will tell you what I think and what I believe, but I can't tell anybody else what you do. I can tell everybody what I do. So if I make a mistake on my little research project, most of my customers get tired of hearing about it. And if something seems to work for me, I have no problem sharing it with them.
Right. Right. Right.
I mean, I want everybody that I do business with to succeed.
Right.
I want to be the lazy banker. I don't want to have to work. That's why I want government payments and a lot of income and all that. So I don't have any stress. And my life is real easy then.
Very good, Al. Well, thank you for being on Land Talker TV, Al. And so this is the end of this episode, and talk to you soon, Al.
We will talk. Thanks, Jim. Have a good one and good luck and keep doing a good job with the appraisals. I do think you're the best one I've found out there.
Hey, I like that. I appreciate it, Al.
You
Thank you so
bet.
much.
Thank you.